Oh, and what is up, YouTube? My name is G3 Iron, and today we are taking a look at supporting in POE. What does it look like to play an Aurabot or a support in Path of Exile? This is a question that I've gotten from numerous members of our Patreon support channel, of our Discord, as well as numerous comments here on YouTube. So today I just decided let's tackle it. Let's dive into what some of the concepts are and some of the builds that are out there and some of the tips that you should be thinking about if you're considering playing a support in Path of Exile. As always, I love your comments down below. I enjoy interacting and discussing different topics and learning things from you. So if you've got a comment, maybe you've played support in the past or you're playing support right now during this present league, and you've got feedback, an idea, or something that you'd like to share with the community, feel free to leave us a comment down below and help contribute to all of us learning more about Path of Exile together. So what is a support in Path of Exile? Well, first off, starting with the definition, a support in Path of Exile is a character that is dedicated to providing bonuses to other party members through active and passive abilities that otherwise would be unavailable to party members. So, typically a support in Path of Exile is somewhat similar to supports in other games, where they are providing something that would otherwise be denied, whether that's an active ability that the current DPS or carry can't run because they don't have space, whether that's through particular items, whether that's through particular gem sockets, whether that's through particular skills that are unavailable to that particular ascendancy class, or through passive abilities, which also could be because of particular unique gears, particular ascendancies that are needed, or particular points on the passive tree that the carry simply cannot allocate. So that's what a support is dedicated in doing. It's giving all of that juicy goodness of active and passive abilities to someone else in their party who simply couldn't fit it. So examples of active skills include such skills as Decoy Totem, Stone Golem, and Animated Guardian. Those are all active skills that are used by supports in PoE. Decoy Totem is especially helpful when a support is running it, because then your DPS doesn't have to worry for a couple of seconds about getting hit by a boss or by enemies. Examples of passive skills include auras and curses. You can, of course, set up curses to function similarly to auras, where they are simply a passive skill that's going on in an area around the support character. And you're going to see a lot of support builds that we're going to look at here in just a moment that pretty much divide themselves into either Aurabots, where they are trying to fit as many auras in as possible, or you may hear the phrase cusebot used. I may use that throughout the video. You may have heard that on forums, on Reddit, on YouTube, on other build guides, where people are trying to jam as many curses as are possible. And then you've kind of got this hybrid where there are folks who are trying to do both multiple curses as well as multiple auras. So these are some of the archetypes that are available for different supports in Path of Exile. So why would you want to play a support in PoE? Well, first off, it's fun. Does anybody play anything anymore, by the way, just because it's fun? Maybe this is just a holdover from other games that I've played, but I feel like this is there is a growing sentiment amongst gamers today that you have to be the most efficient at everything you do, and we've got to be farming free stuff, free in-game money, free in-game currency, free. We've got to be farming, we've got to be efficient, we've got to cut down on everything else. The primary reason to play something in almost any game is because it's fun. So it's fun to play support, believe it or not. Almost every league, I make a support. I can't say every league because I know that I've skipped it. I skip making supports often when I play hardcore leagues, which I play hardcore every other league. But it's fun to play support. That's the primary reason to play support. The second reason to play support is that you enjoy playing support classes in other games. So you enjoy healing, buffing other characters, buffing your buddies, or debuffing enemies. You might enjoy seeing a boss that can just totally take down your party, and then you come in as a support and you're just like, nah, party's got it. We're good. I've got all of these extra debuffs. Boss does nothing anymore. That's a really cool, empowering feeling, and supports provide that in PoE. It can be very profitable. This is the third reason to play a support in PoE. Oftentimes supports do not run from their own atlas. They don't have to get completions on their own atlas. And so it can be very, very profitable. In other words, you don't have to spend a bunch of time completing your own atlas and then running your own atlas in order to make money from getting maps to drop and then selling those maps. You don't have to do that. You can just run in a Magic Find party and split the loot, figure out how you split the loot, and simply make money that way. That can be very profitable and save on time if you're short on time, like a lot of us are in terms of the number of hours that we get to play PoE. Another caveat to this is that supports get to charge for their services. We've got a video on the channel about splitting loot in XP and Magic Find parties. I always recommend that auras charge for their services, whether that's an upfront fee, whether or not you want to split the loot with your carry 50-50. I, in general, typically let my supports just sort through whatever it is that they'd like to sort through, and then I pick up whatever I need after that, and then we split anything that's above 10 chaos or more. We split that 50-50. But supports can be very, very profitable simply because carries can do content that they otherwise can't do with a support, and so supports can charge for their services and say, hey, I'm happy to come and map for you for 10 maps or 100 maps, or even just for an hour or 2 hours, or not even put a time frame on it. Hey, let's just go play together, and this is how we'll split the loot. So it can be very, very profitable to run a support. Next, there's huge numbers involved in playing a support. So if you like huge numbers and you like huge DPS, it's actually best to play a support in PoE. So you've decided to play support, and now you're looking for a build guide. What exactly should you be looking for in a support build guide? Well, I've got a video that details these 6 tips. I'm going to run through them just really quickly. I've got a separate video that goes into each of them in detail. But pretty much you want to look for if the build is explained well. In other words, you can read it. You want to check who made the build if they've been playing PoE for a while, so they actually have some knowledge base. Does the build have gameplay video to actually show you what it looks like, so that way you can actually measure whether or not it looks fun to you? Can the build be a league starter? In other words, you want to look for how pricey the build guide is going to be, and we're going to take a look at some of these build guides that are available that I've used in the past, and you want to see just what the price is to whether or not that's going to be a factor in you choosing the particular build guide. Fifthly, you want to see if the build has a leveling guide. This is essential for playing support because you need to know so oftentimes support trees do not look like solo DPS carry trees where you're picking up a lot of damage nodes for yourself because supports aren't using active skills to do damage themselves. So having a leveling guide in the build guide is key, so that way you know exactly how many respec points it's going to cost you in order to move from your leveling build into your final form of support. You want to know what sort of uniques are available to you as you're leveling versus when you transition. You want to know what level it is appropriate for you to fully be able to support as opposed to carry yourself and progress through the game. So those are all factors that you're going to want to look at if the build's got a leveling guide. And then 6, does this build give a template for your goal? So in other words, for this particular setup as a support, if you want to support, let's say, a spellcaster in your own guild, then does this particular build allow for you to use a lot of spells that'll buff spellcasting? Conversely, if you're supporting somebody that is using an attack like Tornado Shot, there's a lot of Wind Ripper, Queen of the Forest magic finders out there that love having supports tag along with them. I myself am one of them. So do you have a lot of buffs that are going to protect that Queen of the Forest carry, but then also allow them to have boosted DPS through their attacks on Tornado Shot? So does this build give you a template for your goal? So that's what you want to be looking for when you are looking at a build guide. So all that being said, let's jump in and take a look at a couple of different build guides that I've found helpful over the years as I've been playing Path of Exile. They're all, of course, going to be linked down below in the video description. So this is our first build guide that we're going to look at. This is Zephyr's Best Support Victorio CI Aurabot with 14 plus 3 auras and 2 curses, GG DPS. So this is Zephyr's guide. I'm not going to read this whole thing all through, but I just do want to point out a couple of things about this. First off, I love that Zephyr says right from the get-go, hey, Aurabots don't work for free, so just make sure that you have figured out the way how you're going to loot things together as a party. And then I love that he's got some photos here that show us, remember how we were talking earlier about huge numbers, how you can provide some really huge numbers. We'll take a look at this. Here's Tornado Shot, 39k tooltip DPS, and then when he's standing next to it with all of his buffs, and it goes up to 521. So a lot of players see the 39 and go, yeah, I want to be the carry. I want to play that. That looks awesome. That does tons of damage. No. You want to do tons of damage, go play support because you're enabling that style of build. which is great. He also, of course, shows off all of his gear, and then he gives lots of different screenshots, again, showing off the damage. He's got a budget-friendly version of it, so in other words, if you don't have that much currency, he explains and goes into details which uniques and what priority order you want to purchase those uniques, and then he's also got a standard legacy variant. Of course, here's the skill tree. Animate Guardians, very, very helpful to know if you're using an Animate Guardian as a support. You want to know exactly what items to equip on the Animate Guardian, because those items that you equip on the Animate Guardian can actually give you auras and buffs as well. So it's like a support inception, a supportception. It's kind of what it's like. So I really appreciated that Zephyr goes into details on all of these points. So that is Zephyr's CI Aurabot with 14 plus 3 auras and then 2 curses equipped as well. That is a Scion. Next up is Demigod. Demi does all sorts of awesome stuff on Twitch, on YouTube. He's all over the place. He's great. I watch him for a lot of his crafting stuff, especially on YouTube and on Twitch, so he's great. This is his BitterLemon. This is another Victorio's max DPS Auramancer with 13 auras, and then he's running 3 curses on this guy. You can see all of these different auras that are up on this particular screenshot. One of the things that I appreciate about Demi is that he does the absolute most expensive stuff in PoE, and he is an active standard player and crafts all sorts of just ridiculously amazing stuff. And he says right away from the get-go, hey, this is not a budget build, and no, I'm not going to make a budget version. Stop asking. So in other words, if you're starting off playing support and you're going, I wonder if I have, let's say, 3 Exalted. I wonder if I can start playing support. Okay, maybe you can go try out Zephyrs. But if you only have 3 Exalted and you stumble upon Demis and you go, yeah, I really want to get this set up, and you start buying things and you start leveling your character, and then you realize, why is it that mine doesn't look like his? This is why. It's because this is not a budget-friendly version, and I love that Demi is upright and upfront about that, just to let you know exactly what you're getting into. Next up is Toaster's Hardcore Occultist support. He runs 7 auras and 4 curses using Victorio's influence. One of the things that I really like about Toaster in his particular build guides is that he puts all the updates right up at front. So every single league that he's going back over and updating via the patch, all of his builds, you can see, hey, what are the changes from last league? So in other words, if you played one of Toaster's builds last league, you can come and just check his build guide right away and see, hey, what's changed? Has anything changed? Has the build suffered at all? Has the build been buffed at all? What exactly is going on with the build presently? And I love that he does it in chronological order from the most present league, so that way you know exactly where you're at in the present league, where you're at in comparison to the build. So I really, really enjoy that. He's got a lot of pluses and minuses on here. This is a excellent display. It's very, very readable, where you can look at, hey, what are some of the differences between playing Occultist versus Guardian versus Ascendant, which are basically the 3 options for most folks as they're playing support. And so he just breaks it down very, very simply. Hey, here are some of the ways in which Occultist is better than Guardian. Here are some ways in which Guardian's better than Occultist and Ascendant. Here's some ways in which Ascendant is better than Guardian and Occultist. So it's really, really helpful to be able to have that level of breakdown as you are considering which support build to follow. Next up is Toaster's Hardcore Guardian support. This is with 10 auras and Victorio's influence. The one thing that I wanted to note here is that the overview on this guy is that he's got 7 to 10k energy shield, and it's affordable. Okay, it's actually affordable right now in Betrayal League. Like, this is something that you could do if you only get to play for an hour or two. You've got a regular day job. You only get to play for an hour or two during the week, and then on the week, every day during the week, and then on the weekends, you're coming home and you're playing for a few hours. This is totally doable. It's very budget friendly. Take a look at this. You can start with a budget of 10C, and you can start supporting people. And this is hardcore viable. Like, I don't know of a better, more budget-friendly support starter than this particular Guardian support. Guardian is great for getting started as a support character. Okay, lastly is Party Jesus, the tanky aura support, all endgame, cheap. And here we go. I loved this from Karunga because of this lore meme. Forget the power of loot filter in PoE trade, for so much has been forgotten, never to be relearned. Forget the promise of Atlas progress and Challenge League rewards, for in the grim dark months ahead. There is only the grind. There is no peace amongst the price fixer. Only an eternity of 820 spamming and carnage and the laughter of Chris Wilson. Anyway, memes aside. Okay, so memes aside, I wanted to show you this because here is a detailed breakdown on how exactly you can level with Party Jesus' Aura build. If you're looking to level and you're looking to play a support, you need to know how to be able to level that baby and when to transition. So he goes down into a detailed breakdown. Hey, at level 4, you can grab the Vigil socket, Vigilant Strike, and grant your allies up to 26-second Fortify. At level 12, you can use Victorio's Flight to use while leveling, and later your Animate Guardian can wear them. Level 16, the Shaper Seed is going to drop, and you can use that. Level 17, Omnivorax fixes your resistances basically forever. Then Solaris Lorica at level 17. You can get one around level 31. Once you've ascended, reserve an aura with Blood Magic support gem, beef up your allies with tons of armor, be prepared to skill Zealot's Oath here and run Discipline. Your ES is now your efficient health pool, and you need to keep your resistances maxed. So you can essentially start supporting buddies and level at level 31, which is great. At level 52, you swap over to Victoria's Influence. At level 68, Prism Guardian. At level 64, you can equip Alpha's Howl, which is great because that's an additional aura. Those sorts of details and in-depth level of laying out exactly how you're going to progress through the character are incredibly helpful when you're playing a support, because otherwise it can be very tricky if you just look at an endgame tree and you wonder, wait, my character does no damage. How am I supposed to actually progress through Act 1, let alone get to endgame? So those are all some of my tips for playing support. But I'd love to hear from all of you. What are your tips? Do you play support? Have you played support? Are you presently in the present league playing support? Leave us a comment down below. And of course, I'm always happy to learn things as well. So if you've played support or you've got a tip or something that we didn't share about or talk about today, feel free to leave us a comment down below, because I'm learning just as much as you all are about PoE. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, stay tuned for more videos, and I hope today is the day that a Mirror of Calandra drops for you.